Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal and every decision, every day to make a powerful impact on others. Today's guest is going to light you up. You'll be motivated, you'll be challenged, and most importantly, you're going to walk away with tools that inspire action both in your life and the lives of others. Audience, here's your homework. How will you serve yourself and others today? Doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. Shout out to my two sponsors, A Mind for All Seasons. Your brain is your greatest competitive edge, and it deserves to perform like one. Want to think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer? Just text the word optimize to 72000. Optimize to 72000 and get instant access to 6 short, powerful videos, each just 3 to 5 minutes, that reveals simple strategies to unlock peak mental performance. Because when your brain is clear, your business grows. And the Epic Impact, the storytelling system that helps your message connect and convert, it's just 4 steps. Engage, persuade, inspire, close with clarity. I use it every day for all my messages. Try it free at epicimpact.ai with code STEVE. Change your messages, change your results. Excited to announce Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast was named top 6 in small business marketing. Thank you all of you, my guests and my audience. You've impacted so many people. Let's continue doing that. Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm excited to have my guest today because you're trying to sell your business. A lot of people out there are doing it. I know probably 10 people right now trying to sell their business, working with people, or trying to figure out, or when do they do it? Why should they do it? We're going to jump in and all that. Let's welcome our guest. Geoff, welcome to Doing Business with Servant's Heart.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, you bet. Is there a time not to sell your business?
Well, everyone's circumstance is unique to their individual story. We like to start that conversation with the reality and the truth that every single business sells one way or another. And it could be your estate selling your business upon your passing. But one way or another, every single business will sell and will transact. And so we like to pose the question to the business owner and their family. To what degree do you want to speak into that? And to what degree do you want to have a voice in your fate and how the story unfolds? And to what degree do you want to leave that to chance and allow fate to be imposed on you or upon your passing, upon your loved ones?
Family is a big word that you said there, because the guys I'm talking to, do they incorporate them in this decision? Do they not? I think they should. Just my thoughts. Wife, younger kids or whatever, the family. How do you go about that when, you've got a founder, Joe Smith, and he's got 5 kids, a wife, and he's leaving a legacy. Maybe it's for the kids, maybe it's not. How do you walk through that with him?
Well, there's a lot of layers to your question. First, it's the reality that your life actually is a Venn diagram when you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, where your family, your personal life, and the business itself, they are going to overlap. They do overlap. And then when you talk about the sale of the business, you need to address what that overlap is. And part of it, which should be discussed regardless of the family's involvement in the business, is the reality that that business owner is going to go from a position and a state where they dedicated years and decades to that business, 8 to 16 hours a day, where they were not with their family, and their identity in many cases was tied up in that business, to selling the business. And now all of a sudden that identity's gone, and you are presumably with your family and loved ones for the time that you previously were in the business. And you need to talk about, as an individual and as a family unit, how is that time and energy going to be spent? And what is your personal why, or what is your identity going to be? And that is going to be unique to every single individual. And if you do not spend the time individually and with loved ones creating a game plan for what life is going to look like on the other side, most business owners and their families end up with a lot of friction and challenge. And candidly, that's where regret comes in. Like, oh, maybe my life was better off when I ran the business. But again, I go back to how I opened up the conversation. Every business is going to change hands one way or another. And do you want to write the story, or do you want the story written for you?
What's interesting, you said something that I loved, in the fact of when you got the family, was the identity. You know, money doesn't change you. It does change people, some people. But what really changes for everybody is your identity. And I love that. That's something really, audience, if you're thinking about selling your business, it will change. Lottery winners tell us that all the time. You know, their identity changed. Of course, they did. A lot of them do the wrong thing and lose all that money pretty quickly.
And then, Steve, there's the other aspect that you touched on, and that is the transfer of wealth. And there's many different components that go into that. Certainly the charitable strategies, the tax strategies, financial literacy, the trust and estate planning. And a lot of business owners don't spend the time creating the team and putting the thought into those areas that need to be addressed. And then they get into this process of selling their business. And then they sell the business, and they missed out on a lot of the tax strategy that could occur. And after the fact, they thought their life was going to be less complicated. And all of a sudden it got more complicated, with more plates spinning, more moving parts. And here's the most challenging part about it that a lot of business owners don't recognize. When they ran the business, they knew everything about that world. Now, all of a sudden, on the other side, they've got all these plates spinning: trust and estate, wealth management, family office, charitable, financial literacy, transfer of wealth, the emotional and relational component. And that business owner knows little to nothing about all of those areas. And they turn around and they, again, this is where regret comes in. And they're like, I felt like, even if it was an illusion, I had complete control over my life. as a business owner, and now I have no control. And my family's actually telling me they like me more when I went into the office every day. All of that can be mitigated and prevented with some thought, intention, and you and I talk about this a lot, creating a team that surrounds you and your family. Because on the other side, it's no longer your company, your family becomes your company. That becomes your corporation. It's Steve LLC. It's the Steve Corporation. And you need to look at running that the same way you ran your company.
We think so much alike, because I was going to say that to you. When you sell a business, you now have another business. You just mentioned it. It's brilliant. And that's why I love how you serve your clients, because you solve all those problems. You bring everybody in.
What surprises a lot of people is, and these are rough, these are rough numbers. But that complexity starts as low as about 5 million. Definitely at 10 million. But at 5 million, you become what is called a qualified participant. And a qualified participant gets access to a lot of investments and opportunities that folks below 5 million do not get access to. And these are laws and regulations that particularly the SEC define. And more opportunity, more responsibility, more complexity, more risk, and certainly north of 10 and 20 million. Your new company is your family and the wealth that you're now responsible for.
5 million is not a lot of money now. I know people out there, I know listening.
It's not.
It's not. I mean, I'm going out getting funding, and we've talked about, and they're like, can you get 10 million? Can you go for 50? What? There's just a lot of money out there, but you have to have access through the right people like you. I always tell people, what you don't know will lose you a crap load of money. Just go ask people like you. Well, that leads to people listening are going, got a business, Geoff. I'm excited because I want to start my family business in a sense. I want to exit. When is the right time?
So I'm going to answer that in a real practical way. First of all, we think about the right time in the imagery of a clock. And so a lot of business owners will wait until 10, 11 p.m. or midnight to sell the business. Part of it is fear and insecurity of what the heck am I going to do with myself on the other side. Part of it is I love what I'm doing. Why would I ever stop what I love doing? Part of it is, man, things are really going well. Why would I pull the ripcord when things are going well? Well, you got to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer. The buyer does not want to buy a business when it's at 11 p.m. or midnight. They are buying two things. They're buying past performance, previous cash flow, earnings, revenue, but then they're also buying future opportunity. And so you want two things in terms of timing. And in around a clock, we talk about that probably being around 8 p.m., 7, 8, 9 p.m. at the latest. What is that? Well, previously, your past 2 or 3 years, you have growing revenue, growing earnings and profitability, and then you have strong margins, strong profit margins, particularly relative to your industry. But then the buyer also wants to look at your business in terms of the potential. And so they're going to look at it and say, wow, the revenue, the margins are great. The EBITDA or the earnings are all trending up over the past 3 years. We got a lot of positive momentum. And then they're going to say to themselves, what if I add X, Y, and Z over the next 5 years? It's going to do even better. And part of what we do at SDR is we craft that story for potential buyers. So the business owner needs to sell the business with upward momentum. And then the second thing to share that a lot of business owners just don't know is most buyers, particularly private equity, they're going to encourage that business owner to roll 20 to 30% of the proceeds of the sale into that new company, and stick around for 1 to 5 years and execute on this vision, this shared vision of growth. And Steve, oftentimes that second bite of the apple is even greater than the first bite. That surprises a lot of business owners. But all that to say, when it's the natural psychology of the business owner to wait until 10, 11 p.m. or midnight, and then all of a sudden you introduce this idea of a second bite, that oftentimes does not fit into the natural rhythm of their life if they waited until they were 65 or 70 to sell the business, right? Especially if there's a spouse that's been in their ear for 5 years. Steve, you told me you were going to sell this thing at 60. You're now 65. We're not getting any younger. The trips to Europe are not going to get any easier. We got to do this. The grandkids are only growing up. The window is closing. And then all of a sudden, you introduce this idea of an earnout or a second bite of the apple, and they waited too long. They waited too long to start the conversation and to start planning. And that's why I said it at the very onset. They waited too long to start giving themselves and their family the opportunity to write the story and input into the narrative, rather than, oh my goodness, this is actually going to get forced on me, and the terms may not be ideal.
Yeah. I love the storytelling too, because you could change the story. So I come in, I become your client. You look at my story, go, hey, Steve, you need to add this into this to make the story more robust. So buyers talk about that, because I think that's a great way to sell a business. You know, like, hey, I'm making 100 million a year, Geoff. Sell my business. You're worth 10.
Right.
Why? Oh, you know, you got receivable, you know, all this. Here's your story. Here's what you think it is. Here's the real story.
And then there's another component that I hope our listeners really take to heart. And if you have aging parents or parents that have passed away, you'll really get it. But it's the realization that particularly once you cross into your 60s, as far as your health and the health of your loved ones, anything can happen. And it is very common for us to have conversations that go something like, I had no intention to sell this business, but I was diagnosed with cancer and I have to sell this business. Or I had a conversation last week. The business is just thriving. It's printing money. The business owner loves it. Wife is diagnosed with dementia. And he says, Geoff, I have to care for my wife. I have to sell the business. And so the more time goes on, the more life happens. And the thing that's amazing about the psychology of the entrepreneur and the business owner is their default has always been, I can outsmart, out hustle, outsell any risk and anything that happens to me. And that's how I've gotten to where I'm at today. Well, life does happen, and you can't outsell, out hustle, or outsmart cancer, dementia, a stroke, a heart attack, a grandchild that's born with special needs that needs your love, attention, and maybe your money to support them. Life happens. And the longer you wait to figure out and just think about, what are my options? What are the cards in my hands? And how can I play them? And the reality is that liquidity takes risk off the table, and it gives you options.
So what I'm hearing from you, every person that's listening to this is a business owner. I don't even think it depends what size. You should always be looking at an exit or prepared for it somehow.
So this is the wisdom that we always share. I don't care if it's a startup, 10 years out, 3 years out. You said it, Steve. When you're making business decisions, even if you're not going to exit, you should be thinking, if I were to exit in 1 or 3 years, am I building a great business? Am I building a sellable asset? That's how we always present it. Am I building a sellable asset with this decision? And if the answer to that is no, it's probably not a good decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, you don't have to sell it, but it should be part of your business plan. You know, it could be, hey, I'm prepared for, you know, and you go on for 30 years, but my business plan says decision if I sell, and you may just pass it on to a kid.
Exactly.
Kid, you know, if they want it, which half the kids don't, which good or bad, it's their choice. We're coming to the end here, but I think one of the important things that's not talked about, I've talked to a number of exit people that I love that you do, the people. Buyers are buying that founder, the employees, and that the culture. Am I overstating that when I think it's really important, or is that not so important when it comes to selling your business?
It's extremely important, and it's one of the biggest roadblocks, and why this conversation is so healthy. And the common refrain when I talk to the business owner is, well, Steve, tell me how much of the business really hinges and relies on you. And they puff up their chest and they say, oh, this whole thing runs on me. I do all the sales. I'm the rainmaker. I do all the accounting. I know where every single penny goes. I sign every single check. I do all the pricing. I do everything. And then I pause and I say, so put yourself in the shoes of the buyer. Do you think they want to buy a business that has been built completely around you? And then they get this blank look on their face and they're like, no. And I go, you need to work yourself out of a job. And that takes time, humility, patience, capital, teamwork, delegation.
But that's the perfect example of making decisions to be sellable in the future. What a great way to end this show is exactly that. Look in the mirror. Are you doing way too much? Do you have bad apples in your employee stack? I'm sure the buyers go through and talk to your vice presidents, your managers and directors, and you know, clean it up. But it's only going to help your business.
Yep.
Because you get rid of that, your business is going to thrive as well. Well, part 2 has been better than part 1. I kind of knew that was going to happen when I
Yeah.
jumped on this show, because these are multi-million dollar tips that people take advice, and we'll get his contact information here in a minute. But I've asked you my first question. I've got another fun question to ask you to end this. So I've got a Learjet reserved for you. I'm going to be the co-pilot. I'll get experience, got to fly it, but I'll sit in there. It's got 4 seats. Where would you fly? And in those 3 empty seats, and if you want to bring family, we'll add some seats, but 3 people you'd love to fly with wherever you're going, to just be there with you.
So Lisa and I have been married for 25 years. Emma is 19 and Logan's 16. And over the years, for our family, among other places, Kona, Hawaii, the Big Island has been a special place for our family. I hate to not give you a wild answer, but it was so obvious to me. We would fly to Kona, specifically Waikoloa, and it would be Lisa, Emma, Logan, and I. No
I've
doubt.
been to Kona. I would go with you and probably reserve another jet, because it is beautiful.
It is.
So,
it's amazing.
I'm not a nature guy, but it just enthralls you. So I'm with
And
you.
you know what? I have this conversation with friends because it's like, well, you wouldn't go to Bali or you wouldn't go to Fiji or Bora Bora. And it's like, I've seen a lot of nature, to your point, and that Big Island is tough to beat.
It's really, really tough to beat. And it's closer than those other places,
Exactly.
which is not bad. That helps. Well, it tells us you're a family man. That's exactly what I wanted people to see with you. And that's important. That's why you're so good at your job. SDR is so powerful, because you bring the family in. You don't disclose, bring the family out of it. You bring it into conversations.
It's a very human discussion and exercise. It's soul searching.
Yeah.
But the process is based around people. That's why we exist.
And that's a big part of this. Somebody listening that owns a business or has friends that own a business, how can they connect with you and want to talk to you more about this?
Sure. Email is definitely the easiest way to go about that. I'm very accessible. My email is my first initial. Geoff is spelled with a G, and then my last name, G Eliason, ELIASON @sdrventures.com. And then, of course, our website's really useful, sdrventures.com.
Beautiful. And I'll have that in the show notes so people you can have access, or you can reach out to me and I'll get Geoff connected with you. And thanks again, Geoff. The other thing I want to say is subscribe to the YouTube channel, because you're listening to this and you go, just like I said, you've got somebody that should be listening to this. They can learn about Geoff. That's why I love podcasts. They can learn his passions, his desires, how he does it, and just share the podcast. Go, hey, you got to listen to Geoff. You're thinking about selling your business. This might be a great start. And then you've made the impact, which we should all be doing every day. So with that being said, me and Geoff want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.